99.
We're going to do that last.
I thought so.
Okay, members, let's go on. We've got a number of items before we reach the afternoon agenda. All right, this is item number 99, which is a motion to direct the Office of the County Attorney to draft a proposed ordinance making possession of up to 20 grams of cannabis, frequently known as marijuana, a violation of the Broward County Code of Ordinances, and providing for a civil penalty for such violation. Vice Mayor Kiar, would you please introduce it? And then we have some members from the public that wish to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'll be brief. First, I would like to thank Commissioner Furr for co-sponsoring this item. I think it's very important. Well, thank you. A joint sponsor. What this item does is it would allow sheriff's deputies and law enforcement personnel to be able to issue civil citations to folks rather than to criminally arrest them and charge them with state statute if they have a misdemeanor amount of marijuana on their person. And I personally believe this is the right thing to do. And the reason being is because right now our deputies and our law enforcement personnel don't have a choice. If they find somebody and that person has, let's say, a joint on them, all they can do and they're required to do is arrest them. And when you arrest a good person because they have a joint on their person or a misdemeanor amount of marijuana, even if they're not convicted, their lives in many instances are ruined. If they want to become a teacher or a police officer, or if they want to go into the military or become a member of the Florida Bar, there's a question on there, not have you been convicted, but have you ever been arrested? There are also good folks who are professionals in our community. We have judges, we have lawyers, we have teachers, we have firefighters, police officers, and many other folks. And if they're arrested, they're required to tell their bosses, and in many instances, they lose their jobs, and that hurts them and their families. And what this does is it will give good people a second chance in life, and that is why I brought this today. Now, in 2010, the Sun Sentinel reported that 58,000 people sat in jail because of pot-related charges in Florida. And being in Broward County, the second most populous county, it's my understanding that a significant amount of those folks were in Broward County jails. 58,000 it was statewide. Commissioner Holness says that was in Broward, and if that was the case, that's something we need to alleviate. I had a conversation with a number of deputies, people that I just walked up to on the street, didn't have any idea who I was. I didn't knock on their door on this one. And I asked a few of the deputies about this because I wanted to get their take. And I said to them, I go, this is what I'd like to do. I would like to bring to the county commission a proposed ordinance to give you the opportunity to cite people civilly rather than arrest them if they have a small amount of marijuana on them. And both of them agreed that it was a very good idea. Their response was to me, Marty, we have a lot more important things to do in keeping the public safe than to ruin somebody's life and to arrest them because they have a small amount of marijuana. It's a lot of paperwork on our part. It overcrowds the jails, and it's not something that we think is vitally important. We would love to have that opportunity. I also believe in Broward County, the three most important folks in our criminal justice system that I wanted to get the support from are our sheriff, our state attorney, and also the public defender. Last week, I met with Sheriff Israel, and actually I have the sheriff's office and his chief of staff, Lisa Castillo, and others are in the audience today. The sheriff is fully supportive of this idea. He thinks it's a good idea and it would be very good for Broward County. Yesterday, when I went to lunch, I just happened to run into Mike Satz, the state attorney, and he said that I could publicly state that he's very supportive of this concept as well, as he thinks it's in the best interest of the people of our county. And last night I had a conversation with Howard Finkelstein, our public defender, who also thinks it's a very good idea, and he said I could publicly use his support as well. So for all these reasons, I believe that making a misdemeanor amount of marijuana under state law, giving our sheriff's deputies and police officers the opportunity to give good folks a civil citation will be in their best interest. And I just want to mention two more things. In 2014, I believe 68% of Broward County voted for medicinal use of marijuana. And to me, even though that's a different issue than this, to me that shows that we're a very compassionate community. I believe the people of Broward County understand that folks' lives shouldn't be ruined if they have a small amount of pot on them, and that people should be given a second chance. And also, Commissioner Wexler, I read your PBMI questions, which I thought were excellent, along with Commissioner Ritter's. And I thought that your question about how many joints you could make with 20 grams of marijuana was very interesting. Now,
Yeah. It depends on whether you're rolling them in Jamaica or in America.
And I know there were differences of whether or not you roll a blunt or a joint. You know, 30 seconds. I've never taken a puff of a cigarette. I've never done any illegal drugs. I actually have no clue what it's like to be high. I don't. Well, I like Red Bull. I like Red Bull. But let me just get there. Let me just go here.
Did you say you have no idea what it's like to be hot?
Well, hot, yes, hot, I know. But what I do know, the reason I want to make this 20 grams is because under state law, that's what the state legislature has determined is a misdemeanor amount of marijuana. And I believe that we should mirror state law in that, and that's why I put that in there. So with that said, I hope that we have strong support and approval of this initiative. I hope we can direct the county attorney to come up with a very good ordinance for when we come back, because this is definitely in the best interest of the people of our county, and I made it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have some members of the public that wish to be heard on this item. First, there's one person who signed up but did not list on your sign-up the agenda item. Kent Crompton. Mr. Crompton, are you here? Kent Crompton from Coconut Creek. All right. All right. First person to speak from the public is Hiedi Handford, followed by Seeb-Goldstein, followed by Michael Minardi. Are you Hiedi?
I am Hiedi.
Hello,
And
Hiedi.
thank you very much for your time today. I'd appreciate it. I'm Hiedi Handford. I'm the executive director of the first time in Broward County, so Worldwide Women's Cannabis Alliance. I'd like to tell you I moved to Broward County a year ago from Montana. I've been a carded patient in 2 states, and I have one huge complaint about this meeting, and that is the good mayor took out every part of my word in support of this ordinance. So he's been very well educated. So please listen to this man.
Thank you for the promotion. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Oh, vice mayor, sorry. So thank you. You just totally shot everything I had to say. So I'm going to ad-lib it here, and I would like to tell you folks, I moved here to be with my significant other, who is Irvin Rosenfeld, who has been the longest surviving federal patient and receiving federal cannabis from the federal government now for 32 years. So he is tickled to death about this. He's been watching people be thrown in jail for this plant for over 40 years, and it's time to stop that. And if something like this would have happened to him when he was in Miami going to college, he would not be where he is today. Today, he's a functional member of society. He's a stockbroker for a securities firm right here in Fort Lauderdale in Broward County, and has been a stockbroker for 28 years. If he was arrested or had any of this done to him back in Miami when he attended college here, he would not be where he is today. He could not have a job, and he could not be a productive member of society. It would have essentially completely destroyed his livelihood, and he'd be a functional member. He'd be reliant on Social Security and disability because of his condition. So thank you very, very much. Trust your vice mayor. He's very well educated in this. And if you have any questions, I'm available, and I live right here in Lauderhill. So thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Seeb-Goldstein, followed by Michael Minardi, followed by Vincente Thrower.
Good afternoon, and also much of what you said is right here, but I'm going to say it anyway. In spite of over 57% of Florida's voters and nearly 68% of Broward County's voters, support for medical marijuana in the election of 2014, arrest for possession of marijuana in Florida and in Broward County continues. Right now, 4 states have legalized possession, and 23 states, plus Washington, D.C., and Puerto Rico, have legalized medical marijuana. Disregarding the medical benefits of cannabis, which is the true name of the plant, the fact is that it makes no sense to continue to invest financially and socially in a failed policy of marijuana prohibition. Broward County has far more important areas of concern. An arrest for cannabis possession can cause all kinds of peripheral tragedies. One joint can cost an individual's driver's license. This impacts his or her ability to seek or maintain employment. An arrest record can cause an otherwise eligible student to be denied college, to be kicked off a school team, to lose a scholarship. Being denied housing and the separation of a parent from the home are both also real possibilities. The hardships created by an arrest for simple possession can be immeasurable. There is a simple and effective answer to this problem. A civil citation program would save enormous amounts of money while freeing the sheriff's department and the courts to spend their time and their already strained resources dealing with real criminals. The deputies would not have to spend time transporting, booking, and doing paperwork for a minor offense. It would not legalize possession, but would treat possession of small amounts in the same way that a traffic ticket is handled. Far more harm is caused by the criminal prohibition of cannabis than by the use of cannabis. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Michael Minardi. To the audience, for those of you who arrived after the meeting started, we do not have any applause or booing in the chamber. Thank you. If you agree with what is stated by one of the speakers, then you can just wave your hands, which is an acknowledgement that you agree. Thank you. All right. We have Michael Minardi, who will be followed by Vincente Thrower, that will be followed by Lisa Rask.
Good
Mr.
afternoon. Thank you. My name is Michael Minardi. I'm an attorney here in South Florida. I started my practice in Broward County and have been practicing in Broward County for 13 years, mainly focused on criminal defense and specifically with a focus on cannabis law. And this cannabis law and decriminalization would be an extreme help, one, for the court system. Let's free it up. And let's talk about money. In 2010, there was a Florida State University study which showed that drug court saved BSO approximately $125 million over 5 years. Now, these people, majority of them in misdemeanor drug court, are all people that Marty's bill or Mr. Kiar's bill would help. They're all people that are under 20 grams. This situation has helped. I had a client previously who was in ROTC, and he got excluded and kicked out of ROTC because of having a gram of cannabis on him and it creating a criminal record for him. I have had numerous patients and people over the years who are arrested who are professionals. The majority of people who are out there are just like people who have drinks at night. Just like everybody else in this room who may go out and have a beer at a bar are people who decide and say, I don't want to drink alcohol. I want to go home and smoke a joint. That's what a lot of these people are in our society who are using it today. And these are professionals, hardworking individuals. We want to talk about the words justice for all, liberty, and equality have been thrown around this room a few times today. And that's not what's occurring with cannabis in this country and in this county specifically today. According to a study in 2010 as well, African Americans were 3.7% more likely to be arrested. In 2010, nearly 60% of the 6,061 arrested for cannabis possession were African American. This is disproportionately affecting a class and a group of people that do not need any more hurdles in getting ahead, getting an education, getting jobs, and being successful in this life. As far as jails go, we're talking about people in jails. It's costing the taxpayers, every person who's in jail, approximately $23 a day. This is money that we can turn around and change into profit. There's many counties in this case that allow, for diversion programs for first offenses, but it still costs courts money for them to go through that.
Thank you, Mr.
Clear this
Minardi.
up with a civil fine.
Our next speaker is Vincente Thrower, followed by Lisa Rask.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Vincente Thrower. I live in Pompano Beach. As a community,
What are you
as a
doing,
community
Bogart? Are you
leader
making fun of
here,
him?
I think that this is an awesome opportunity to give hope back to a lot of our young people. Currently, we have a lot of young men who are just washing cars as a detail business because they lost hope because of these little misdemeanor charges. This helps put them back and say that though I made a mistake, I can always, instead of me going to jail and getting a record, being 18, I can really, hey, this is a citation. This is something that I pay a $100 fine. And I hope there is no limitation to how many citations that we will be issuing. Because, see, that's going to be the problem that I think we as a community are going to have a problem with. Well, is it just a one citation or is it a two citations? And then I'm going to get a little technical about it. Where's the money going to go for that $100? But that's another subject. I'll accept that later on. But today, I support this. My community supports this. I hope my county commissioners on this side and this side understand that this is a good opportunity. Just need to tweak it, and let's keep it moving forward. I think it's good for Broward County. As every other state, it's time for us to move forward and make things positive happen so that our young people have hope and don't feel like this is nothing but a sting on their record. Thank you.
No applause, please. Thank you. Just wave your hands. All right, next speaker is Lisa Rask. Ms. Rask, are you here? All right, so let's go ahead and what comments do we have from commissioners? Commissioner Wexler, you're recognized.
Believe it or not, I'm almost 66 years old, and I'm just high on life too.
Oh my gosh, this is not the forum for confessions here. All right, you go do that at church in the confessional. All right, go ahead.
High on life. There you go. I almost wanted to be. You're the youngest one up here. I'm the oldest. I thought, okay, maybe I'll sign on to this thing too, because I'm going to tell you the reality is that I agree with your concept. But the devil is in the details, and there are no details here other than Miami-Dade County's proposed amendment or ordinance. And when I read it, I had nothing but a whole lot more questions. I look at your item here, and I see fiscal impact, none. Did your office prepare this, or did county staff prepare this?
County staff.
County staff. And they really think there would be no fiscal impact here for some kind of a civil citation or diversion program? I really would like to know that. I'm looking at her face. I mean, it looks to me like they didn't prepare it. So you think that the attorney's office? They're all denying it, Vice Mayor.
Well, it was an agenda item was prepared for us that we approved.
No cost to put the agenda item.
But I mean, I would think it would likely be to the county revenue neutral.
Oh no, it
I would
won't.
think so.
But that's why I really would love to know which staff member thinks this has no cost, because you got a problem there, Ms. Henry, because and what? Okay, you'll have your turn. Hang on a second. Again, it's really a matter of, if you take the model of a civil citation program, which I am very familiar with, the state law was just amended that the kids, for those misdemeanors that qualify, have 3 opportunities for a civil citation to be issued. If it's a diversion program, and by the way, they, as part of the civil citation, and I know the sheriff supports the civil citation concept, so I need the clarity. Is it 3 shots? Is it an endless amount of opportunities? Is it one turn? What are your thoughts here?
Well, my thoughts were at this time, and this was very broad because I wanted to hear the discussion of the county commission. And this, frankly, is something that is very new. As a matter of fact, I didn't even know we had the authority to do this until I saw what they were doing in Miami-Dade. And then when I brought it to the county attorney's office, they informed me that we do. So I wanted to keep it broad. I believe that our law enforcement personnel, at the direction, for example, of the sheriff and others, are able to utilize very good discretion as to whether to issue somebody a civil citation or to arrest them.
How many times?
Well, I personally believe it should be open-ended. But if there is a disagreement up here, I'm willing to compromise as well.
Okay.
I really would just like to get something through.
So we're looking basically to legalize pot.
No, not necessarily. This is not necessarily. There,
Okay.
you know,
And for the record, I want, and there's a lot of smiley faces out there. I get it. But, you know, for the record, and I'm a public official, soon to be done and term limited out. I got about another 17 months here. But when that item was on the ballot, I was a yes vote. I was one of those 68% in Broward County to legalize it, to change the Constitution. You know, that's my belief. That's my position. But I think we need to be very thoughtful. I think we need to be very inclusive. BSO may provide law enforcement for, I think if we were to look at the number of people served under BSO, it would be somewhere under 50% of the population of Broward County. So the other 50%, have they weighed in? Are they going to have the opportunity to weigh in? I would hope, has the League of Cities weighed in on this? I know that Commissioner London in Hallandale has brought this forward. He's going to work with the law enforcement agency in Hallandale to try to massage something to come forward. And massage is the good word, because I don't know that we can actually do a motion. This is a motion to direct without having a lot more information.
can I respond a little
yes,
bit?
please.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. But
The only time I can talk to you is on the dais
of
about
course.
this. So
Of course, absolutely. I believe that a motion to direct at this time is appropriate. Now, I'll tell you why. It's similar to the Yellow Dot program. The only way, right now it's an open-ended motion to direct. We could direct the county attorney's office to prepare something for our consideration in a few months, and over the next few months we could have county staff reach out to each city. We can go to the League of Cities, we can get their input, and I think that is, the more appropriate manner of proceeding, because, you know, truthfully, if we didn't ask for a motion to direct, there's no guarantee that it would that there would be a motion direct would be appropriate later on, or would even get through, and then there would be basically a waste of county resources over the summer if there's not something that's even going to be considered. So I think, but that's what I would suggest. I agree with you. I think we need a lot of weigh-in.
So you want a motion to direct without the details,
Well,
and let them go out, or staff, and go shopping out there for the details of the input of the cities.
I would like
That's
that.
a little arse backwards.
Well, I mean, for me, it's very simple, truthfully. I mean, all I'm saying is, to me, it seems very simple. Give our police officers and deputies the ability to issue a civil citation in lieu of an arrest. To me, it sounds very simple. We can easily do it. We can put it under our code. And if the cities, truthfully, if the cities don't want to follow it, they can easily opt out through their own ordinance. We do not preempt them on this. And they could also follow ours. But in the meantime, while the county attorney does that, they can seek the input of the cities. We can seek the input of any other stakeholder that county staff deems appropriate. But I think it's something that we need to move forward on.
I think that I'd like to do something about it, but I'm going to tell you I'm nowhere near 20 grams.
Okay.
Nowhere near 20 grams, which is almost an ounce.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing how many how many joints, wrong word, that's how bright I am, how many joints it actually is capable of making, that's beyond personal use. Beyond. And I don't know what it's called, a joint, a blunt, a whatever, makes no difference. I'm just really interested in, if somebody wishes to use pot for personal consumption, it shouldn't be something that is such a negative in their life criminally. That's why the concept I fully support. When I say the devil's in the details, for me it's about the amount, because it's not just, it's beyond personal use. if you got 20 grams every time and a civil citation is issued. If you can make 12 or 14 or 20 or 40 joints with it, then you're probably sharing with friends. Is that what we're condoning? So if it's personal use, I get it. Then it should be an amount south of 20 grams.
And by the way, Commissioner Wexler, I'm fine with that. Truthfully, until you asked your question, I had no idea how much 20
either.
grams was. But if, and I asked the county attorney before, because I had a feeling this was coming up, if we had the ability to deviate from state law, and she said we absolutely do.
We
so
do.
I am more than happy to go there
But
as well.
if this is a motion to direct, then I want to at least throw out a few ideas. I'm a big supporter in civil citation. In Miami-Dade County, in their ordinance, and they have a very extensive diversion program. Our diversion program in Broward is nowhere near as extensive. It really needs to be flushed out about the cost and the cost for the diversion programs. At some point, the fee that's generated, the citation fee that's generated, will help fund much of the program. So I believe that what we really need to do is do some seed money. That's not meant as a, not a double entendre there. Some seed money for at least startup. But I think there's an awful lot more thought that needs to go into it, and inclusion that needs to go into it out there in the street of some groups. I suspect the Commission on Substance Abuse might want to also weigh in on it. But I have no problem with supporting your request today to direct. But I don't know that I think we need a whole lot more information.
Sounds good. Absolutely.
Okay?
I agree.
Thank you.
And that's very helpful. I agree with you.
Commissioner LaMarca.
Wow. So I want to clarify. I had a constituent call me and said, please vote to decriminalize marijuana. I said, we're not voting to do anything. We don't have the ability to do that. But you will next November. So nor is it changing any rules for medical marijuana or anything else. It's dealing with solely a possession issue. We have read and we have heard through letters and seen through letters that the sheriff is fine with this. Commissioner Kiar, did you reach out to the Chiefs of Police Association, which is all of the other 17 chiefs of police in Broward County?
Really only the 3 elected officials I reached out to were the sheriff, the state attorney, and the public defender.
Okay, I would definitely want to reach out to the other 17 cities in Broward County that are represented not by the Broward Sheriff's Office. I did speak to Mr. Satz this morning because I thought it was important what his opinion of it was. It was not important to me what the public defender's opinion of it was for obvious reasons. With regard to Mr. Satz, he didn't have a real problem with this. And I have to tell you, I was a little surprised. We talked about what would make sense. And clearly, there is an issue here and there's a bigger issue. The first issue is Mr. Pompano Beach was here earlier from District 2, and he mentioned multiple, as many as you want. And Marty, you said the same thing to a degree. I would support a second chance, which is first time. What I would also not support is anything that did not include making this a mandatory step. Now, so for those who aren't reading between the lines, if somebody gets pulled over and the cop has the discretion, and I am 100% in support of public safety and law enforcement, as everyone knows. However, if you leave it to a human being to make a decision whether they can or can't deliver a penalty to somebody and a different one to somebody else, I don't want to see this turn into, well, so-and-so was pulled over and they didn't get a second chance. They didn't get a fine of $100. They went to jail. And it may turn out that person looks more like my colleague and less like me, and that happened. And I don't want that to be the issue here. The issue here is if there's going to be a penalty that is a fine, a financial fine, then it should apply to everyone. So it should be mandatory that everyone gets the same penalty, not somebody from one neighborhood or another or one background or another. The other concern that our state attorney had was that it would be an increase in DUI. And DUI is typically always thought of as alcohol, but it's any drug under the influence. So that was a concern. The biggest issue here is I think whether Commissioner Holness's numbers or your numbers were what the numbers were in jail, it makes no sense for somebody to sit in jail because they can't make bail because they had one joint or something thereof in their pocket. I don't know about 20 or 40, but this is for possession. This isn't for drug dealers. This is for somebody who happened to have something on their possession. It's currently a misdemeanor, and we dealt with the other issues. Currently, it's a misdemeanor, and you go through either pretrial intervention, which is at least the first, maybe the second time that you're caught in the situation, and also we have drug court. But I don't want to spend money in our jails to keep people who happen to have possession of one or more joints in their possession. The other question is financially, Commissioner Kiar, what do we do with regard to tests? So we have the crime lab. I don't want this to make a negative financial impact on the crime lab to do drug testing. We have tests that can be done on site. The only other thing I'm concerned with is, look, we all know marijuana is a cannabis and it grows in the ground just like any other plant, and it has its effects just like grapes do when they're well ripened and all that good stuff. My concern is that somebody has a joint in their pocket. We have this program in place. What happens if that joint has some other drug in it, PCP, flakka, whatever else?
Flakka. Not flakka. Flakka.
A couple years ago, we had an epidemic where 7 people were dying a day in the state of Florida due to prescription drug overdose and the pill mill situation. I don't want to see us basically looking the other way for a joint, which I think everybody up here has the same perspective. We don't want to put people in jail for one joint. But what if that has a deadly drug in it that could have an adverse effect? So we need to make sure we know how to deal with that. That being said, I think it's a good first start of having the conversation. Clearly, the bigger issue is going to be in a year and a half on the ballot. But from a standpoint, if it's mandatory that everyone gets the same treatment, everyone's treated equally, I don't have a problem with it.
Commissioner Holness.
Yes. Vice Mayor Kiar, I'm going to support you on this. As a matter of fact, I want to be added as a co-sponsor of this also. And it's not that I don't think that there's some issues with the usage of marijuana. The THC content can actually affect your cognitive skills. However, the effect that it has on people's lives when they're caught with some small amount, and you talk about the numbers and how it's disproportionate to minority communities, to the black community, it is really horrendous. And a lot of folks have become hopeless and helpless because you need to be a barber. You have a record, you can't do that. There's so many restrictions that's put on your life as a result of it. I think where you're going with this is in a good direction. There's some other elements that I think need to be utilized. I'm not sure you set this up as a diversionary program as they have in Miami, which is far more extensive. I think where you're at, based on your conversation, is that if you're caught with a certain amount, then you get a ticket rather than be sent to jail. Not that you now enter into a diversionary program. I think the next step that we need to really get to is into a diversionary program, some place where you can get some help, some support, some counseling, putting in the right direction if you have an issue that is continuous with marijuana that's debilitating you and not making you function the way you ought to function. So I think we need to go down that road and look at that. I support you in this first step. And I think the sheriff's from his letter that I read is on the same point, that yes, he supports this as a first step, but let's get to where we can put something in place that has given us a success rate that we have had for a civil citation diversionary program. In that program, 96% of the people who enter don't reoffend. 94 to 96% don't reoffend. And they get some tools and some education and some training and some skill sets to help better their lives and become stronger and better, not be weaker, not be damaged to the extent that they are not able to function as full human beings and productive human beings within our society. This is in the right direction, and hopefully we can also put some other things out. If we are collecting money from the civil citation, then let's put some educational pieces in there also as to how, if you believe you have an issue, where you can go to get help to be treated if you think that you're utilizing this and it's affecting you in a negative manner. So I'm in support of what you're doing.
Commissioner Furr.
Thank you. First of all, I want to kind of give a shout out to Sally Heyman on this, because she was creative enough to figure out how to bring this about. And I had a chance to actually talk with her at length up in Jacksonville this last week. And I see Michael Putney's here. I saw their show together as well, where it was very, very well discussed. She put a lot of thought into it. And her motion is not just on marijuana. It's on a whole list of things, which was pretty smart as well. But to the extent what this is, I want to caution the mandatory aspect of it, and particularly why, because and I think this I actually saw on the Putney show, was the idea of if there's 20 grams, if they're in little baggies, that's a whole different. That's somebody who's dealing it as opposed to somebody who's for their own use. So I think we want to really think. I think we're going to want to have that discretion of the officer at all times, because you don't know. As to fiscal impact, you've already covered all the other stuff. I'm not going to go over it because you covered it very well. But as to the fiscal impact, I don't think we know what that's going to be, because I think there's costs and I think there's tremendous savings. I don't think we know what those are going to be yet. I know Sally Heyman had suggested savings in the millions based on how many people were arrested, the time in jail, court time, all that kind of stuff. I don't know where she got all her numbers, but that was her fiscal impact was a huge savings, not only in terms of money, but in terms of the actual time that police officers were spent there as opposed to other places they could be. And I think I have represented a low to moderate income area for almost 12 years, and I have seen the damage it has done to families, and it's tremendous for huge areas areas that I've represented, of knocking on doors and people can't vote, they can't get a job, just the litany of problems that go with this. This needs to. I'm very happy to jointly sponsor this, and I was going. I think you beat me there by about an hour to do this, but I think this is a good move on our part, and am more than happy to help co-sponsor this. And I think the idea of directing. I do think that I agree with Commissioner Holness on trying to find an educational aspect of this. Oftentimes when you get a citation, sometimes if you get a traffic, sometimes you have an option of paying or going to traffic school. Being able to do a drug intervention or a drug education program, I think would actually be a good part to this. I think it would be a good aspect. You could do it either or. You could make it that part. I don't know if you want to do that mandatory, but that is a good opportunity to educate those people that are partaking. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Bogan.
Marty, I want to tell you I support what you're bringing forward, especially when our chief prosecutor for Broward County and law enforcement officer support it. I think that's great. And even though Commissioner Wexler pointed out about details, I think our brilliant county attorney who is going to wake up, hopefully he'll wake up. I think she's a bright professional. I know, I'm joking. I think she's a bright professional lady who'll be able to put together an ordinance with specifics. I think she's very experienced in doing that without having the details. I fully support it, and you know how I stand.
Commissioner Sharif.
Again, I would be supportive if I knew how many times a person could offend and get a citation before this turned into a real criminal record. That's number one. Number two, what is your limit? I mean, you can stop the same person 3 times in a month with 20 grams, and that person can get a $100 fine, and they're going to make a lot more money than that selling their 20 grams. So the other thing that concerns me about this is, honestly, people driving under the influence after smoking marijuana. If you are driving after you smoke marijuana, that is considered a DUI, and the cop can't let you go. He's got to arrest you, and he's got to put you in jail. There's so many tentacles to this that I can't imagine us going forward without some concrete evidence and factual data as to how much this is going to cost, how much it's going to save. Again, I'm going to echo Commissioner Furr's comments in regards to Commissioner Heyman from Dade County. We talked about this at length in Jacksonville, and she had some other components. She had some other thoughts about what would make this a stronger exception or exemption policy for us, and I just don't see those things included here. And I don't want to go off half-cocked and say, yes, I'm going to support this and have it have repercussions that we are not prepared to handle. While I understand that the majority of Broward County did want to legalize marijuana, you do, hopefully for those people in the audience, they do know that this is not a legalization of marijuana in any shape or form. This is simply saying that if you are caught with a 20-gram bag of illegal marijuana, that you're going to get a pass, which you'll get a $100 violation for, and you cannot get caught with that 20-gram bag every single day. And you cannot be on the street corner and get caught with 20 grams every single day and think you're going to continually get off. So I'm hoping not. I mean, but the way that this is so broad, how could we in good conscience and in good faith sit here and pass this today without having those details hammered out? As far as our African American community, as far as people being caught with that, as far as statistics, listen, we know that right now in the state of Florida, that marijuana possession is illegal, okay? What we're talking about here is giving a second chance. So, but the people that are using this for recreational use, you do understand, are not going to go home because they got a $100 fine, get into a drug rehab program or get into some kind of rehabilitation program and just stop smoking marijuana. These are people that want to smoke it for recreational use, and they have it in their possession for that reason. And what you're saying is that if you get caught with this illegal substance in your possession, then we're going to give you this pass this one time. How many times do you get a pass if you smoke it all the time?
Can I respond, Mr. Mayor?
I want to let you close.
Oh, thank you.
But I'm just asking a hypothetical question. I don't expect for you to have an answer to me because I don't think it's cooked. I don't think this is really cooked. I don't think we're at a point where this commission can actually take a position on this and vote on this. And I know what your intentions are, and I think that when it comes back, I'd be willing to support it, but I think it needs to be cooked some more.
All right, I'm going to make some statements, and then I'm going to recognize Vice Mayor Kiar to close on his motion. This is just a motion to direct the county attorney to come up with a proposed ordinance. So we don't need to solve all of the issues here this afternoon. But here are my concerns. You can't take away from the police officer the discretion on whether or not to arrest somebody for possession of less than 20 grams of marijuana. If you did so, as has been stated before, then that's decriminalizing marijuana. We are not authorized to do that under our county charter. We are preempted under state law. So you have to leave that discretion. So inherently, some police officers are going to make that call in the street, whether it's made based upon race or ethnicity or the way somebody's dressed, the way somebody acts. It's just going to happen. So we have to recognize that. All right, second thing is I'm uncomfortable dictating to the cities that they would have, that their police officers would have that discretion if that local government does not choose to do so. If you look at our charter, we preempt the cities with respect to land use decisions, with respect to environmental protection, on the ethics for elected officials, but cities have home rule power with regard to the health, safety, and welfare of their citizens. And certainly possession of marijuana falls within the rights of cities to control health, safety, and welfare issues. So I would say that we might go and take a step and say if we are going to enforce it, or excuse me, if we are going to allow for the civil citation program, it would be within the area that we serve as the municipal board, which is the unincorporated area. Beyond that, then you're going to have a discussion about whether the contract cities with BSO want to come on board, and then it's another step. But I feel like the cities ought to be able to weigh in, and they always say that we're trying to take control and we're making decisions for them. So in this instance, I think that there's a lot of different opinions. The people are closest to their local government, their municipal government. Let all of the citizens come and speak to their local elected officials and decide how they want to pursue this. The other thing that we've had some discussion on is, should this be a standalone charge, or could it be in conjunction with some other charge, with reckless driving, not DUI, but reckless driving, which is a lesser offense, with some other kind of misdemeanor charge, if it's graffiti or if it's trespassing or something else. Do you allow that possession of marijuana charge to be determined to be a civil citation? Then also the number of times. So these are all things that you need to consider. With that, I mean, I'll support a motion to direct us going forward, but as Commissioner Wexler said at the very beginning, the devil's in the details. If it comes back and it's too loose, then it may not have support of this commission. So, motion to direct. Has somebody got the motion?
Can I make a quick?
Oh, Vice Mayor Kiar, you please close.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and and I really appreciate this discussion. I thought it was very well done, and I definitely appreciate the co-sponsors and the thoughts. It was very well thought out. A couple things that I just wanted to mention. This isn't we're not requiring the cities to do anything. What you have to understand with this, we don't preempt the cities on this issue. We're allowed to do a countywide ordinance that, as the sheriff said, gives these cities and the sheriff another tool in their toolbox. So let's say if we pass this, the sheriff may decide he wants to follow it. He may decide he doesn't want to follow it. The city of Fort Lauderdale that has its own police department, they may decide that they want to follow this ordinance. They may decide that they don't. Their law enforcement chief and their commission would say, hey, we like the county's new ordinance. We're going to instruct our officers to use their discretion in lieu of arresting people to issue them a civil citation. They could also say, we're not going to follow it. We're just going to continuously arrest folks. It's within their discretion. And if a city truly doesn't like it, they have the ability to opt out. We do not preempt them in this matter. That's why I think it's very important that this is a countywide ordinance. I appreciate, I see that there's definitely the support to move forward with a motion to direct. And I'm thrilled and excited about the work that staff and the county attorney is going to do over the summer, along with myself and anybody else that would like to get involved in seeking input from the cities and any other stakeholders. And I'm very hopeful at the end of the day that we can come up with a palatable ordinance to this county commission that is going to give our officers and our deputies the ability, if that city chooses, if the sheriff chooses, if their deputies choose, to give people a second chance in life rather than ruining their lives with an arrest. So with that said, I make a motion that we move this forward.
Point of order here. You said one thing, Vice Mayor. Mayor, you said something very different. And what you said that was different was how to proceed. I support this motion to direct, but it is a very loose piece of fabric that needs to be detailed, okay? The mayor laid out a plan for doing that, working with police chiefs and even BSO's cities. You have the city elected officials that sign the contract with BSO. They need to be in that loop. You then stated, but it is within our purview to do this because we're the county commission. If they want to opt out, so you're going about it, Mayor, looking to gather the information from the ground up. Vice Mayor, you're saying, let's just do it, and if they want to opt out, they can opt out.
You know what?
What I'm
Just
saying
a minute.
is-
Wait,
what I'm
wait,
saying
wait.
is
No,
that-
just a minute. I just want to understand what Commissioner Wexler is saying, and Vice Mayor Kiar, you'll understand this quite well, having served in Tallahassee, that it is much easier to stop a bill from going forward than it is to pass a bill. And so the same thing applies at the local government level. For you to put the kind of like the onus on the cities to kind of like opt out or develop some type of strategy not to issue civil citations places that shifts the burden or the difficulty onto the local officials. I feel it's a matter of this nature. The local officials have to make an affirmative statement that they want this civil citation program. That's where you and I are looking at it differently. So in that context, I mean, if you want to proceed that way, you're not going to have my support. I don't know if you're going to have support of this board. So do you want to?
Can I have a point of order, Mayor? The motion doesn't discuss either one. It's just to direct the county attorney to draft an ordinance. Why don't we let her draft a couple different ordinances of different examples using her experience to bring it back to us, and we can go from there.
All right, to the county attorney, do you what would you do if we don't have a resolution on how to draft this proposed ordinance? What do? Do you bring us like Baskin-Robbins 31 flavors?
If the meeting ended right now, we would go with the sponsor and we would prepare amendments for each commissioner who spoke with us and wished to have a different version.
Okay, so Commissioner Furr.
Thanks. And I'm actually okay with that and I think when it comes back, we flesh it out, and that's what you would bring before we would pass it all. That's what you want to bring to the cities. We don't have anything to bring to the cities right now.
All right, so
or if you're actually trying to gain support, you can't bring this kind of wide open thing. You have to have something in your hands that they can actually take a look at.
when we come before,
Yeah, there might be. This may take a while to get through.
Commissioner Furr, when this comes back before us, if the sponsor has not gone to the cities and we don't have support by some types of resolutions from the cities, then how are we going to make that decision? I mean, are we going to go ahead and just bring it up and then just defer it, and then once we have some drafts, then the vice mayor is going to go to the cities and find out what their feelings are?
One, we know that we can do it for the unincorporated part. That part we do know. The second part would be having the option of those that are under BSO and letting them make their own decision on it.
Exactly.
The other cities are going to have to make that decision on their own, to be honest. But what we're showing there, what we're showing to those other cities is a pathway. That's what this is doing. It's showing a pathway for other cities to be able to get to where we're trying to get to. Because to be, in all honesty, and I think you alluded to this, Commissioner Kiar, is a couple of weeks ago you didn't even think this was possible. And I don't think many of us thought that this kind of pathway was possible. So I think, and I know, having talked to many cities over many years, a lot of people had been interested in trying to find a way to do something like this. What we're doing is blazing a trail, so to speak, blazing a trail. I know, there's too many puns in here. I'll be blunt.
Just waiting for that one.
Yeah, but I think this does give everyone a pathway to getting to where I think we want to go.
All right, thank you for the clarity in your observation. So we have Vice Mayor Kiar's motion to direct the county attorney to draft a proposed ordinance, and members can speak to the county attorney on any amendments they want to run. Is there a second on the motion? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Show the motion passes unanimously. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's fine, it passes.
Who vote?
6 objectors were on a motion to direct anyway, so.
Well, no, we're going to reflect it. It's 7-2, unless you want to change. Do you want to direct or not?
I'll direct.
Okay.
I'll direct.
All right. Show the motion passes unanimously. All right, so now we're on to item 100, which is a motion to adopt a resolution encouraging the Broward County